Okay, so hello, I'm Elizabeth Milovidov and with digitalparentingcoach.com. And I have another expert with me today in our Facebook group, the Digital Parenting Community. And so I'm going to welcome Catherine and let her tell you all about herself and all the fab things that she's doing to help parents. So Catherine, please introduce yourself.
Hi, happy to be here. So I'm Catherine Halprin. I am located actually in Montreal, Canada, but I'm American and a French citizen. So a little bit of a globe trotter, and I've definitely gotten to know the world of digital engagement over the last 10 years or so. So I own a company called,
Doing what?
I'm sorry, doing what? I own a company called Arcade Consulting, and we're a tech advocacy for children. So what that means is I advocate for safe digital practices and responsible digital engagement within the home space and also within the educational space. So the idea is that what information your children are getting via screens, via different apps, via different content providers it's good for them, it's healthy for them, and that they can also take that information and bring it back home and make sure that that circular loop that's happening, the education at school and then the education at home, is then reinforced, right? So that they're getting a bit of education within the school environment, a bit of fun, a bit of entertainment, but it's not overwhelming when they get home too. And that they're able to also take all of that in and kind of reinforce it and make a really healthy digital safe world for kids. So that's a bit about that.
Yeah, I like it. But what I think is really interesting too is that your background is kind of the flip side of what we're doing. So we want to explain that to our
Yeah, so how I got into this. So that is one aspect of Arcade Consulting, is working directly with parents and making sure that they understand what's safe and smart for their kids. Another aspect of Arcade Consulting is actually working directly with companies and making sure that the content providers, the producers, are actually creating engagement pieces, video games, anything that a kid might interact with online, making sure that it's safe and it's following proper guidelines. And how I got to that is I used to work with those companies to sell those products. So for instance, Fisher Price is a big client of mine I used to have. Hasbro is a big client of mine I used to have. So the idea is that I used to work in advertising, and they would hire me to create messaging, to create strategic engagement, to create a way in to the end consumer. So you would buy something essentially. So instead, I'm taking all those points of messaging, all those ways that I probably would have targeted you as a parent, and teaching you about it, right? So you understand what to look for. You understand what messages are coming at your kids when they're online. You understand what messages are coming through to you that maybe you didn't even notice are happening. And so the more that you're informed, the more that you can better protect your children.
For sure, because awareness is really the name of the game here when we're talking about digital parenting, just to understand what's out there. And even if you're not completely tech savvy, that you just have a glimpse of common sense, critical thinking, and really getting
That's
it.
right.
So
Critical thinking is a big one, right? Digital literacy, media literacy.
yeah.
In Canada, where I'm located right now, it's actually been a part of the curriculum for education for kids for quite some time. But I know that's not the case in a lot of other countries, especially not in the US, and especially varied state by state and district by district. So again, critical thinking is one aspect of this larger proponent of media and digital literacy, which I'm hoping can start to be instituted into more schools and more programs across the world. So parents do understand how to even think in those terms and to look at engagement in that way.
Yeah, but in Canada, you have Media Smarts that's doing a
That's
lot
right.
of fantastic things. And I know,
That's right.
at least in North America, Common Sense Media with their digital curriculum, that's gone
Exactly.
into a lot of schools. And in fact, we even have that over in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
Common Sense Media, and they've just started a European office. So we'll see if it gets out here further. We'll see, fingers crossed. Now, I want to ask a specific question so that way our parents know what type of resources you have to help them specifically. So like, the things that you do, your workshops, coaching, talking, how can they get to you to get more of our
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I would love to engage with everybody. Anybody who wants to reach out to me, you feel free to. So my website's arcadeconsulting.com, and you can reach me at Catherine Halprin at arcadeconsulting.com. I run a series of in-person workshops, online classes and courses. I have two running right now. One is 6 weeks to screen sanity, which is really all about making sure that you can get some semblance of calm within the home, within your digital devices. Because I know for a lot of families, it's gotten a bit out of control. So how do you regain that control? How do you regain that calm and that order within your home, even if you're not somebody who's super organized or super orderly, if you will?
I like the name. I like the name 6 Weeks to Sanity. That's good.
Yeah. So there's 6 weeks to screen sanity, and then I also do a media literacy series where it's a bit of a longer course, but the idea is literally getting into, if you really want to understand about different ways to do critical thinking, different ways to look at engagement online, different ways to understand, fake media, right? It's really big. What's out there, propaganda, a lot of the things that you maybe were exposed to a little bit here and there within an educational system. Now we're going to kind of bring it all home and give you pointed examples of how it's happening in a daily world. And then, I'd like to offer as well, I have an ebook that normally accompanies my 6 weeks of screen sanity course, but I can make a link available and you guys can get it for free.
Yeah,
just because, the more that everyone can kind of engage and be a part of it. It's a guide, essentially. It's a guidebook to take you through 5 myths and 5 tips, so you understand some of the wrongs and some of the rights in terms of how to work with kids and engagement within the home, within a digital space and digital domain.
I love it. This is so fantastic. I love getting goodies.
Yeah, I mean, of course. The more we all know, the better we are.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. So I have a question, because you said there are 5 myths and 5 tips, and without going into the ebook topics, what do you feel is like the most important thing that you can do or say or share with parents? The
most important thing. Understand what your children are doing and how they view it. So you look at the world through a different lens than your kids. You look at the internet world or the online world through a different lens than your children.
Yes.
So the only way, or not the only way, the best way, I think, the best approach to really make a connection with your kids and really understand where their head is at so you can help them or help prevent something potentially happening down the road, is to understand how they're engaging. So that might require, for younger ones, sitting down with them and being like, spending time. What are you doing? What video game are you playing? What app are you on? What channel are you watching? Why do you think that's funny? Asking them these questions. I understand some parents think that, 20 minutes online for them is 20 minutes for me. But actually, if you could take those 20 minutes and shift your thinking a little and spend it with them, no matter the age, they might want to shoo you away, you will still start to create a different connection. And then little by little, they'll open up, right? Younger ones will open up easier than older, obviously. But then you can understand how they think, right? No teenager is going to look at a meme the same way you are, right?
For sure.
No teenager is going to look at a YouTube channel and find a video incredibly funny, and you're like, that is the most boring thing. Why are you watching that? Like, no, this is amazing. Why don't you know this is amazing? Have that conversation, no matter how awkward or they roll their eyes. It doesn't matter. It's
I'm laughing
little by little.
Because I'm thinking about my own boys. They're 10 and 13, and they're always showing me things on YouTube, and I'm like,
right. Exactly.
It's not funny to me, and they just think it is the best thing in the world. But I suppose we did the same thing when we were little, right?
Completely. I mean, completely. And I remember so many times shooing my parents away, or you don't understand this, or you're not cool enough, whatever the words I used. That's no difference. But the difference is now, any sort of potential harmful engagement or damaging engagement is a lot more in the forefront, right? And it's a lot more accessible than maybe it was when we were younger. So the idea here is really trying to start that process of getting in there. And again, the more that you've established that relationship, the easier it will be. But if you have to kind of crack in and kind of start to break that seal away, you can do it, but just by asking them a few questions, and I think that is the most important thing. It's digital parenting advice, but it's general parenting advice. But I think it's really understand where they are online, then you can understand where their head's at. Because for them, there is no difference between online world and the outside world. It is all one world for them.
Well, what I think is absolutely fabulous is that I've asked all of my experts pretty much the same questions. And
Okay.
depending on where your background is from, the answers are different, but they're all pertinent and they're all really, this kind of, be a family, sit there and find out
Yes.
what's going on, talk to them. I had a gaming addiction expert on who she said, play the games with them. You will understand who your
That's right.
children are by the avatars that they choose, by the strategies that they take. And I'm like, this is, it's always the underlying thing is communication. So I think it's just fabulous. Now I have another question too. Which is for all the parents who are anxious and frustrated and worried and saying, oh, I'm not good enough, or I just don't get it. What is the one thing that you've seen with your experience and background that can just assure them that they're on the right track, that, that everything will be okay?
Yeah. So incremental change.
Hmm.
So everybody gets really, really anxious, right? Oh my God, my child is having a meltdown again, or I'm referring to it as a meltdown. It might not be that severe, but the idea is that they're having a moment, they're having a behavioral moment in response to something. Normally it's taking away an iPad, turning off a video game, right? Taking away, not allowing the iPhone to come out. Whatever rules you had before that were set, once you've set guidelines, keep them going. And even if you think they're not being responded to, if you start to see incremental change, one less fight, a meltdown that's 3 minutes shorter,
I like
a hug that you maybe haven't got in a long time,
right,
an honest conversation, maybe something just that, you mentioned sitting down playing video games. It's very, very true. One of the things I teach my parents in my classes is, like, I agree with that sentiment 100%, sitting down and trying to engage with the parent. And maybe you've noticed your child is gravitating towards a prince or a princess within a game. I'm just making this up. Why? Why are they? Are they projecting? Is there something going on at school? Like, listen to them. And if through having that conversation, if there's that little incremental change afterwards, even if it's just a smile that you get from your child, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
If you don't see those moments, if you don't have and feel those moments of like, it's working, something's happening, then something needs to give, right? But and I would one thing I would caution is it's not going to happen overnight. None of it happened overnight. So none of it is going to repair or reverse overnight either, right?
But what I think is so encouraging is that you're saying, for the incremental change, so that way parents don't have to wait for that big thing. Like all of a sudden, I've told my child to put the iPad down and he just did it and walked away, took his bath, set out his clothes. If it's incremental, then that means they can really celebrate the small successes, because quite frankly, that's what we're getting. Small successes. And I think that's great. I think that's great.
Exactly. They don't understand why you're saying put that down. They don't understand why why you're like, oh, okay, device downtime, here we go. They don't get that.
Right.
They don't have risk. they don't understand caution. They don't understand that they need sleep, right? None of that. They think they're going to live forever. Yeah. So for them, why are you taking away, especially if it's a social aspect, right? Especially say it's an online gaming where it's a social world, or they're online a social network. That is their world. You are taking their world away from them, right?
You're depriving them.
You're depriving them. And that push and pull is really, really difficult. I'm sure we've all been through it. Yeah. So, you don't want to leave. Just stay at that party a little bit longer, right?
Right.
There's an adult real world example. Stay at that just a little bit longer. Oh, I just want to stay in bed just a little bit longer.
That's the mom.
Right. These are moments, right? But these are moments of enjoyment for you, and sometimes social engagement for you. That is also social engagement for them, right? So as long as, that's why I brought up the point of understand that the IRL, the real world, and the online world there is no divide for children.
For them, for sure. Now you'd mentioned meltdown, and I think earlier you had said tech tantrum. So what's that? I think that's great because you are a mommy to younger people, younger little beings. What's your tip for parents to control that tech tantrum?
Yeah, I think they're different. That's why I try to qualify a little bit. So a tantrum is a controlled outburst. They understand the consequence and they are responding to it, right? Stimulus might have amped it up a bit, but at the end of the day, it is something that can kind of be talked down, if you will. A meltdown is sometimes out of control. A meltdown gets to a level where they don't really, it's almost out of body. They don't understand. They've hit a level and they've peaked and they can't get back down.
Right.
And they also don't understand why it's happening. It's not really them. So that's why Tech Tantrum is more kind of what I focus on. I'm not a child psychologist. I've partnered with quite a few to work on my course to make sure that I am being responsible. But at the end of the day, I cannot diagnose your children. So the quick and easy one that I'd say every parent can use is exercise, endorphins, and a method of redirection. It works very well with young ones. I've noticed it works really good up until about age 12. And then they start to roll their eyes a little bit at you. So that's when you have to use what they use as an activity. So literally redirect and make endorphins happen. Run in place, jumping jacks, run around the block, run around the house. If you live in an apartment, most people in Montreal live in apartments. If you live in an apartment, jump up and down.
Exactly.
If they have chores they have to finish, go do them outside. If they had basketball practice they need to do, go practice. Do it now. Like, break it. If you break it, it jolts them and it can change the mood dramatically. And that is one tip that can actually show almost instantaneous change.
Well, I'm sure.
Like, if you want an immediate response.
Right. That's the one.
Literally. Yeah. Okay. Go jump.
I'm going to sit there. I'm going to give parents a challenge to do that one, because I think that sounds great. Now, I have no more super questions except for what you've already mentioned before, but it's always good to repeat, which is, how can parents get a hold of you? And again, what do you offer for them?
Yeah. So again, arcadeconsulting.com.
Yeah.
And you can always reach me at Catherine Halprin at arcadeconsulting.com. You can find me on Facebook as well. I've got a Facebook page. I've got a small parenting group that works within the courses themselves. And then sort of on Twitter, LinkedIn will work as well. Okay. Catherine Halprin. So that's where you can find me. And what I offer is online parenting courses. I offer in-person and online workshops, one-on-one coaching, and literally just a sense of ease. Sometimes we just have one-on-one sessions where it's parent to parent, but again, I'm doing things like we just did today, giving you some tips and advice that maybe you just need a slight redirection. Right. And you need it to come from a different place, right? Yeah. You need somebody to actually just kind of sit you down, a little bit straight talk, and tell you, give this a try. Get out of your own way and give this a try. Because as parents, we get overwhelmed in our own world, right? And we also get caught in our own world. So it's always interesting to kind of listen to somebody else. And then again, as I mentioned, I have a guidebook that I can offer up. So everyone can kind of take these tips, which is called Taming Tech Tantrums.
That's the one that I like. I'd like to hear.
5 myths and 5 tips. So within 5 days. So the idea is literally, I usually give this out as a challenge. I do a challenge once a month, a 1-week challenge. Yep. Yeah. So every first week of the month, again, I can put the link out for you within your group, but within files as well. Yes. Within the group, I do a 1-week challenge.
Do that challenge, and also, I do think that we're all sharing the resources and we're sharing the community. So if parents want to come and hang out in your Facebook group, I've got no problem with that. I mean, we can't have too much information, especially good information. Yeah. Enjoy. Yeah, it's a real challenge. Again, me coming from the other side, where I also work quite closely with a lot of school districts. So for instance, there's school districts that will actually take my online course and license it to parents. So working to make it an offering for new parents coming in with kindergartners and first graders, so that they can kind of start to prep before they move through the ecosystem. Exactly. And then along with that is a speaking session where we come and we just have one-on-one and I speak to the crowd. And it's about really understanding where their head is at, because then we can kind of curtail the information that they'll receive within the course. So, there's a lot of resources out there, not just that I offer, but of course for everyone. So please feel free to reach out. I'm sure I can clue you into a few more. Perfect. Well, Catherine, thank you so much. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. And I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone. And thank you for listening to our Meet Your Expert series.